Okay, welcome to our fourth section on the series of roundtables to discuss how CEOs are using AI. If you haven't met me, I'm Paul Whitkay, the Alliance of CEOs. Before we begin, I'd like to share our collective progress as we've all are all experimenting with how we use AI in our own businesses, our own lives. And in the past 2 months, our survey results have showed that we've gone from 70% of CEOs using AI to 75% last month and now 78%. So over time, it's more and more people are just starting to at least experiment. And those of us who are having positive results, good or better, have increased from 50% 2 months ago to about 59%. It stayed flat the last 2 months, about 59%. So there is some progress as we experiment, and these roundtables are simply designed not to educate everybody on every detail of algorithms and AI. It's simply to share how actual CEOs are using AI, what's working, what's not working, and enable you to cross-fertilize those ideas, and also at the same time meet some other CEOs and leaders out there in our breakout sessions. So today, our moderator Matthew Swanson, the managing partner of Silicon Valley Software Group, will talk with Alliance member Chris Beal, founder and CEO of Connect and Sell. He's been doing a lot of innovative work with using AI over the years, and we'll learn a few new things from both Matthew and Chris, and then go into several breakout groups where you'll each be able to share your own experiences and questions with and meet some of the other participants today. So with that, Matthew, let's get started.
Great, thank you, Paul. Yeah, as mentioned, the series is all about how CEOs can be using AI in their business. We've covered this topic in a couple sessions now, and in this session, we're going to talk about customizing AI using a company's data. But another theme that we're going to hit on is that this technology is for everyone. Right? It's not just for engineering teams and technical companies. And it's not even just for frontline employees. This tool can be used by CEOs themselves. And so excited to have Chris here to share his hands-on experience with AI in his business and also for his own use. And to kick things off, I'm going to do the same. And walk through some use cases that my company, Silicon Valley Software Group, has been using AI for, and also personally how I use the tool for some of the research I do on companies. So to frame up the problem, before I share my screen here, just like everyone here, I have my company has a particular service offering that matches a target ideal customer profile. We service mid-market enterprise. There's 200,000 of them out there. There's a lot of potential companies, and a certain segment of them are a good fit for what we do. So how do we find the subset that match our value proposition? Well, most companies, they would start with data from lists like LinkedIn, where you can get basic attributes about a company's industry, how many employees they have, their revenue, et cetera. And from that list, now we try to get in front of those companies. But it's pretty broad. As mentioned, my industry, there's 200,000 potential targets that fit those basic profiles. So what I'm showing you here is how we use a tool called Clay, which is a tool that provides data enrichment and AI capabilities. It's kind of like an advanced spreadsheet. And the way we use the tool is as a no-code way of finding our target audience so we can run our marketing campaigns. So we have the basic stuff, the industry, employee, et cetera. To give you an example of things we use this tool for, I can now start to enrich this data by adding in new attributes. Like, as an example, we find that when a company does not have a CTO on staff, that's a pretty big signal they need some help from us. So, typically this would be somewhat painful to find. And now with this tool, I can pull in data sources from 75 other providers. I don't have to go and subscribe to each individual one. And I can start pulling in things like, given a company's URL, LinkedIn URL, I can find whether or not they have a CTO or chief technology officer at their company. And with a couple clicks and a few pennies, I can now run this across a few hundred company records. So I should mention that this tool, Clay, they announced a pretty massive fundraise today that values them at about $500 million. And so their tool has been a little bit flaky, as they're probably dealing with traffic. So I can add other types of enrichments. Another one that's really important for us is, we look for companies investing in their marketing, sales, or retention capabilities. And so, as an example, I can pull in all the jobs that they have posted, which in of itself is really valuable just to have that data available. But there's not a whole lot I can actually do with that, right? This raw data, there's just too many jobs to look at me individually. And there's so much content. If I want to do something with this traditionally, I'd ask some engineers to maybe write some keyword detection and get some approximation. So this is where AI comes in. And again, this tool bakes in with ChatGPT. So instead of writing all those, conditional logic programs, I can instead write prompts. So in this case, I can take all those jobs and first off, filter out anything that's not related to the job. That would have taken a couple of days from an engineering team. I just wrote that in a sentence. And then I can go further. I can start to bucket, where's this company prioritizing their budget? Are they putting it into marketing hires, sales, retention? Depending on which category, I can summarize, what are they hiring these roles for? I can get the KPI that describes why they're prioritizing these. And then I can find who in the company has the budget for this. So the output, we start to see some very specific intent signals on these companies, whether it's sales, marketing, retention, or other. What KPI describes what they're doing, who I should be targeting. This would have been a really challenging set of data to put together. And I wrote this up in about a day. So finally, I can take all of our playbooks. We have scenarios that we've seen over and over again with companies with certain characteristics. I can start by just brief blurbs on what we've done in the past, start mapping our services to these specific customer segments. So I ran this over, a couple hundred companies, got a lot of data. Now I've handed this off to my marketing coordinator, who's running this on 10,000 companies. That is costing us about $200, which would have normally been $10,000 or more, which we would have never have done it before. And so with these much more targeted lists, we're now building targeted ad campaigns. So our LinkedIn advertisements are taking into account targeted lists of people who have specific pains, rather than what we would have done in the past, target all those 10,000 companies with a general pain point. So these are some tools that are coming online that don't require any sort of technology support that anyone could be using today. And on that note, we want to share another CEO's journey. We're going to introduce Chris Beal, who has been working with AI hands-on for his business. Chris, why don't you just frame up a little bit about how your journey with Connect and Sell, how you got here, what led you to start using AI?
Sure, Matthew. I love that use case. Very close to, it's near and dear to my heart. Yes, we're in the business at Connect and Sell, letting folks talk to those people that you've targeted. And so these things, for us, come together to let humans actually speak with humans, get some AI that facilitates human conversations eventually. you know, what got me here is pretty simple. I started using AI back in '92 of all things, because I was working in a company where I was chief technology officer, and our job that we'd taken on was to categorize all the world's products and services. And I thought, man, that's a crazy thing to do by hand. I wonder if any of these modern AI tools can do it. So I plugged into one of these neural networks that was available. It failed completely. And the reason it failed completely is it just wasn't developed enough. There wasn't enough horsepower. If I had that job to do today using the AI tools we had, what took me 2 years would probably now take about 2 weeks. And the progress would be visible. At Connect and Sell, we had a problem that was pretty serious. We always ran our business as a mechanical Turk on the inside. That means we had human beings, what they do is navigate phone calls on behalf of other people. And we're doing about 52 million of them a year. So that's a lot of labor, about 600 people who are involved on a daily basis from beginning of day to end of the day, doing this micro task of navigating a phone call, whether it's an IVR tree, dial by name directory, whatever crazy thing, and getting to a target person, or generally not, because most of the time people are busy. So we decided to use AI, and this is not something that you can do by yourself easily. I had to get an engineering team to pay attention to it. But we did a big machine learning project to see whether we could do something simple, which is, could AI detect the difference between a human being live and anything else in real time? So 3/4 of a second is about as long as we have to figure that out. And is this Matthew answering the phone, or is this Matthew's voicemail greeting? And we've never heard either one before. So we trained a machine on roughly 200 million dials and did just classic machine learning, not even this fancy Gen AI stuff we have now, and discovered that, in fact, it would work. And it's allowed us to remove about 400 people from the company. So far saving us perhaps $3 million a year, and improving our gross margin, bumping it up from around 68% to around 81% now. And we are now using generative AI, this new stuff, you know, the ChatGPT style, to analyze what's going on in those IVR trees, those phone systems, to listen to them intelligently, and just use kind of the native knowledge that these systems have. You know, everything in the internet is inside of ChatGPT. So if you go to Microsoft and you use their OpenAI GPT-4 Turbo model or something like that, it's got all that stuff in there. And all you have to do is add some prompts to it and a data feed and find out what it can do. So what we found out by using several parallel kind of AI processes, that we could actually navigate almost every phone system in the world, even if we've never seen it before, by actually intelligently listening to it and moving ahead. My own journey kind of went in a different direction. I got really interested in whether I could use just plain old ChatGPT in its $20 a month mode as a collaboration partner, just to help me think stuff through. And what I found is I could load up a spreadsheet of all my company's numbers, you know, all of our financials, how our product works, how the gross margins work, and all that kind of stuff, and what our customers get out of using our product. So put some assumptions in about that, and just ask it a simple prompt. Design me a pricing model, or give me 5 alternate pricing models that balance our profits against our customers' value that they're getting. And just sit back and watch. And the shock to me was I had no technical help, had a spreadsheet, 2, 3, 4 of them, loaded them up, and said, go, please do this for me. Corrected a few misassumptions that were made along the way. And in about 2 hours, I had a superior pricing model for our products that I could then subject to mathematical analysis, and I could actually ask ChatGPT to build that mathematical model for me, so that I didn't even have to do that work. And that would have been reasonably painful. So I got hooked. I guess that's the story in my case. And since then, we've applied it to, I'll call it the surface of our product. So our product lets people have lots of conversations. Well, are they good, bad, or indifferent? They tend to be bad. We call it amplifying suck. So you use Connect and Sell, and your sales reps suck to some degree. We will amplify the degree to which they suck, right? So now you want to get in there and figure out who needs coaching and what parts of conversations. These are usually cold calls. So we decided to make, to see whether we could use a no code, just a GPT model, you know, like ChatGPT, to give it a prompt that was sufficiently detailed about what constitutes a great cold call, and then feed it a bunch of transcripts and see what it said. And it came up with its own scoring system. It suggested the skills. It came up with a way of scoring them between a score of 1 to 10. And all we had to do then was have the engineering team, which did require engineering, unfortunately, to put it in a form where somebody who's coaching a team that has, in our world, maybe 500-600 conversations a week, and figure out who needs to be paid attention to, who needs their opener, helped with, who needs the objections part of their cold calls improved. So in a couple of clicks, a coach can go from, I don't know what to listen to, oh, I'll listen to Becky over here. Her opener seems to be scoring lower than the other things that she's doing. And so we've made it into a simple heat map. It looks like a regular application, but it's actually just the surface of this AI that's running. The AI is doing the transcriptions. We don't do anything there. We just say transcribe. The AI came up with the rubric, the way of instructing another AI. We had one AI write the instructions for another one. And then the AI that's following the instructions is consuming the transcripts and giving its opinion about how good these reps are at different parts of their job. And all we had to do is display it in a simple way.
Yeah, that's a really good showcase. You took us through your journey of using some of the traditional approaches with AI and now these newer approaches. And it's really easy to gloss over the fact that just how powerful the tools have come for non-technical staff. So I really want to break down that problem, that rubric problem, because it's something I think a lot of companies can relate to. They have a lot of their employees talking to customers, and it's an overwhelming problem. The best you could hope for in the past was keyword search and make sure people say specific words or don't say other words. And now what you just described was a way where you took all of your call recordings, transcribed them with off-the-shelf tools, and then this rubric, this grading criteria, you were able to use from that data as well. Can you just give a little bit more context of, what was that process like? What resources were involved to do something like this?
Sure, absolutely. Well, one resource I have, which I think is a bit of a luxury for a bootstrap company, but I have it anyway. I've got one person that I work with, not an engineer, but a person who's I'll call him my data and AI concierge. And I work with him about an hour a day. And I have my questions and he'll help me investigate the AI alternatives. Because when you're putting your hands on it, sometimes you'll go down rabbit holes and have a hard time getting out. So I can send him down the rabbit holes, and then the next day he'll kind of show me what we got. So that was a key thing to put into the mix. Then we had an expert. In this case, we have a cold calling expert. His name is Nate Hawes. Nate's title is conversation optimization. That's what he does for our customers and for us. So what did we do? Well, instead of having Nate give us a presentation or write a bunch of stuff or whatever, we just had him speak for an hour. Stream of consciousness. Nate, what is a great cold call like? Second by second. Don't think too hard. Just tell us everything you know. And we got a 1-hour video. We took the audio from that video, transcribed it with AI, and then gave that audio, that transcription, to a GPT model and said, summarize this and come up with a rubric, a set of instructions for another AI, just like yourself, but its job will be to analyze the conversations. It wrote the whole thing itself. This is amazing stuff when you think about it. I could show you the rubric. It's kind of complicated looking, but it's just a bunch of text. There's no code in there. There's no syntax. It's just like, here are some structured instructions that a GPT model would like. And then we just fed that as a preamble. It's what it's called, as a preamble to the prompt. So that goes in every time. It's like, here's this big instruction set. And then we just put in transcriptions of conversations. Here's speaker 0, here's speaker 1, this is the seller, this is the prospect, a few instructions about that, and then say go. And it spits out the structured results. We ask for those in a particular format. As part of the rubric, we say, hey, by the way, we want this in this JSON format that'll be good for our programmers. I don't know what that means, but please do it. And it spits it out, and then we get a file. We send that over to the engineers. We actually have a pipeline now that does all of this work directly because it was worth engineering. The beauty of it was to get to a proof of concept of this entire process took less than 24 hours. It was just, Nate, please record this thing, send it to us when you have it. Do not spend 2 weeks coming up with a presentation. You're not trying to impress us. We're just trying to suck your brain dry. And then we didn't do any work with it other than we had the transcription done and asked the AI to do the work. We didn't inspect that. This is kind of key to succeeding with this stuff. Don't think that you're so smart you need to do anything with it. Just let it go and then look at the results later to see, was it hallucinating or not? That's one of the things you do have to look out for. There's a little hallucination that will show up. By the way, here's for everybody doing this on your own. If you're using one of these GPT models or anything like it, any large language model, just avoid the temptation to ask it questions of fact. It will take everything it knows, including things it doesn't know, and put them in the answer, and sometimes they're hallucinations. But ask it for inferences, summarizations, and indications of what you should pay attention to, and you'll almost always get great results.
That's a great insight, Chris. And also a great example of a framework for thinking of using AI. In the past, we've kind of just been conditioned to think, oh, we need all this complicated logic, and we need to write out all this these set of steps to perform a job correctly. And what you just illustrated is actually, if you can take conversational data from an expert, you don't need a ton of data. You don't need hundreds of thousands of calls. If you have good input quality data, you can ask these tools to find the patterns and then match them over the rest of your data. And I guess a question before we jump into seeing what this tool looks like. What sort of broader implications? Think of the folks on the session here who have all types of workflows. Are there some general principles that you can share?
Well, I think we pay a lot of people to read documents and tell us what's going on and look for things that are problems and compare them to other, to a standard. There's a lot of contract reading that goes on. There's a lot of plan reading, all that kind of stuff. I would advise anybody who's doing that sort of thing, take your expert who's doing that kind of reading and analysis and just have them hold forth on what they're doing in audio. Take that audio, transcribe it, and ask a GPT model to turn that into instructions for doing that kind of analysis they do. And it's pretty interesting what you get, because then you can feed documents in. And I was told this by a top AI guy at Microsoft who I was put in touch with, and I asked him one question, which is, what's the one thing I need to remember that I'm likely to screw up if I don't remember using all this generative AI? And he said, you're likely to screw up that it has the entirety of the internet inside of it. It already knows almost everything. You don't need to reteach it any of that. You just need to give it something extra that you want to focus on, and then let it combine that with this general knowledge, and you'll get remarkable results. And I think that's really a smart way to think about this. When we did the sales rubric, we didn't have to teach this OpenAI GPT-4 Turbo model about sales. It already knows about sales. There's plenty of information on the internet about sales. It knows what an objection is. I don't have to tell it what an objection is. It knows what an opener is, but it doesn't know the connect and sell breakthrough script technology. No, so all I had to do is say, go read an article called 5 Sentences That Will Change Your Life that was published in 2016 by this guy, Chris Beal, and use that in your analysis. That's all I had to say. I didn't have to say, and this means that, and this means that, and do this first and do that next. It's like, just use that. Add it to what you already know and see what the results are like. And it's, in general, I'm positively surprised. Very rarely am I negatively surprised. Sometimes like, it's a little bit too general. Okay, poke it. That's what we call it anyway. Poke the darn thing and tell it to be more specific. And you'll get remarkable results.
Great insight. And just to illustrate this, we're talking about a concept, an approach here, but really the emphasis is, you did this with a sidekick essentially, with a really small staff. Maybe spend 2 minutes here. We're kind of tight on time, just to show what does this look like at the end of the day.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, I can share what this particular thing looks like. Let's see whether I have it up here. This is what the rubric looks like. This was written by an AI. Notice it's just a bunch of text. It says here, these are instructions. You must analyze these transcripts and return your response in the following format, blah, 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 blah. Okay, some AI wrote this. I've only read it once. I'm not very interested in it. What we wanted to get to was something that a human being could interact with easily that says, here's a team of reps. These are sales reps. This is all the conversations they had in a week. This is last week, it's week of 6/17. Notice there's lots of conversations. My team has technology that we sell that lets them have lots of conversations, right? You could never coach that many conversations. I don't care. It'd be like 200 hours of coaching, right? So the idea is to say, let's find somebody who needs some help in a particular area. Well, everybody's greeting is pretty good, except Emily's. Emily's scores 4 out of 10 on her greeting, and it's weaker than her asking for the meeting, and it's weaker than her assertiveness. So we asked the AI to actually not only come up with the scoring, but write a rationale. And then we could hook it up to the actual conversation. So I could click this and we could listen to the conversation. And what would have taken a coach, I don't know how long, because they never would have done it, is now a matter of a few seconds, right? But this is just a regular old application, but all of the data in here was generated by this generative AI. And what it used to do that was a rubric like this, which is a lot of text, but we didn't have to write it, so it's not intimidating. And that serves as the preamble for a prompt, and the prompt is nothing more than a bunch of transcriptions, a week's worth of transcriptions of conversations.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Chris. I hope this resonates with folks as we go into the breakout sessions, stimulate some ideas that you all might have on how you can apply AI today. I think we got some good